Welcome to the Joy of Cruising podcast with your host, award-winning author Paul C. Thornton, a weekly conversation with the amazing cruisers featured in the Joy of Cruising trilogy, comprised of The Joy of Cruising, Cruising Interrupted, and new release, The Joy of Cruising Again. Each book is a compilation of features about cruisers and cruise and travel personalities from around the world. It's the next best thing to cruising, hearing about cruising from the unique and diverse perspectives of Paul's amazing guests.
Hello, passionate cruisers. This is Paul. And this week on the Joy of Cruising podcast, I am delighted to welcome Elizabeth Hill. Two queens, a convicted felon, and a schoolteacher board a cruise ship. Sounds like the beginning of a bad joke, right? This is no joke, however. These four individuals are respectively the Queen of England, Queen Latifa, the iconic Martha Stewart, Snoops' good friend, and my guest today, Elizabeth Hill, all godmothers of cruise ships. Cruise ship godmothers perform the task of christening a new ship, ceremonially naming the ship, marked by the smashing of a bottle of champagne against the ship hull. Cruise ship godparents are usually women, even animated ones like Tinkerbell, who was named godmother to Disney Cruise Line's Wonder. Although rapper Pitbull was selected as Godfather of Norwegian Escape. The notion of a ship godmother had its origins hundreds of years ago, where ceremonial launching of seagoing vessels took place in various forms, either celebratory or religious, depending on local custom, but generally to bestow the ship and crew with well wishes and safe travels. Usually celebrities are chosen as godmothers, such as Oprah, Helen Mirren, Dame Judi Dench, Whoopi, Reba McEntire, Jennifer Hudson, Mariah Carey, J-Lo, and Simone Biles. And then there is Godmother Elizabeth, who you probably never heard of. I wrote about her story in The Joy of Cruising and called it a modern-day fairy tale. Welcome, Elizabeth, to the Joy of Cruising podcast. Elizabeth, how you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Feeling a bit stressed because I'm moving house, but I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, I'm pretty good. Hang in there. I know what it's like moving. I just did that, not that long ago. Before we discuss what I call your modern day fairy tale, tell our listeners about yourself, where you're from, your background growing up, and then as an adult, whatever you would like to share.
Okay, so as a child, I was born and brought up on a plant nursery, and I guess you'd call it a small holding in the middle of England, in a very rural area. And my father loved horses, and I have a brother and a sister. My father and my grandfather before him were really charitable, and they did lots of things for the community, and maybe that's where I became interested in helping out. Married early when I was too young, and unfortunately the marriage didn't last, but I have a lovely son from that who has a lovely a son called Dorian, who has a lovely partner called Georgie, and three grandchildren, Josephine, Harriet, and Philippa. I was expected to stay in the family business, but I didn't. I didn't like school very much, but however, I stuck it out and went on to uni and became a teacher of rural science, which is, I guess, gardening, farming, really using the outdoors as a classroom, and mainly teaching kids who didn't like being in the classroom, who, hard to reach. Divorced, met my present husband many years later, got married, unexpectedly became pregnant at 43 with a beautiful little girl called Alicia. she's very important to this story because she's the key to all this.
Okay, we'll get to Alicia, and I actually have a very nice photo of you and Alicia that I use to promote this episode.
Okay.
So sometimes the choice of a godmother is associated with a cause the cruise line supports. For example, following the 9/11 terrorism, as a tribute to New York City first responders, Royal Caribbean selected representatives of the New York City Fire and Police Departments as godparents of Adventures of the Seas. And then in 2012, Celebrity Cruises named 4 employees, survivors of breast cancer, or whose mothers had breast cancer, as the godmothers of Celebrity Reflection. Elizabeth, who is a retired teacher, was selected by Royal Caribbean as godmother of Independence of the Seas, a ship to be home ported in Southampton, UK, in recognition of her work with children and young people. Elizabeth, take us through how that came about.
After I'd had my daughter, Alicia, I didn't really want to work full time. My husband at the time was a tenant farmer. I realised that I could use our farm and our land for help underprivileged young people. And so I started a project for people with learning disabilities, young people who'd been excluded from school and who were in danger of exclusion from school, and also ex-service personnel who had problems in reintegrating into normal society.
So you mean that was military service, right?
Yeah, military, yeah. It was very successful. I was very successful in writing grant for funding. I got funded by various different people, and at its height, I had 20. The charity, it became a charity. We had 20 employees and about 150 people coming every week. We had workshops, which we did woodwork, metalwork, mechanics. We had music. We had a big commercial, not a big one, but a commercial plant nursery. We had a small restaurant, which we used the stuff that we grew in the fields to serve in the restaurant. And we're still in touch with lots of people now that we helped, and they've got families, they've got good jobs, they've got homes, real success story. How I came about to be godmother was that my daughter in 2008 was 12, at the beginning of 2008 was 12, and it must have been the Easter holidays, and she was watching daytime television, probably against my better judgment, but she would be bored perhaps, and I would be busy maybe outside. And so Steve Redgrave, who is a gold medal winner, UK gold medal winner 4 times over of the Olympics, was on a programme that we have in the UK at lunchtime called Loose Women. He went on there and asking people to send in nominations for the Royal Caribbean Cruise Company, who were about to launch the Independence of the Seas and really kick off their UK cruising, and they were particularly looking to get families involved, I think. Anyway, I had no idea about this, and so Alicia duly noted the details and wrote her essay or whatever she had to do and sent it in. The first I actually knew about it was when I had a telephone call, and the Royal Caribbean, so a representative from Royal Caribbean rang me and said they had sifted through all these wonderful applications from people and had narrowed their selection down to 6. And I had no idea what they were talking about. And I actually nearly put the phone down and thought it was, yeah, I know. I said, I actually said, no, I'm not interested in reality television. I thought they were going to, I thought one of the kids had sort of, entered me into a reality program or something. Anyway, they said, no, please don't go. And then they said, you don't know anything about this, do you? And I said, no, I've absolutely no idea whatsoever. So they explained the situation and that they were looking for a woman to be the godmother of this at the time was the largest ship in Europe, to be godmother of the ship, and they'd asked for nominations from the UK public to send in details of women who had done something good for the community. And my daughter had put this together. Anyway, they sort of interviewed me, I guess, again over the telephone. And a couple of days later, they rang me and said, okay, have you got a passport? And I said, yes. So they said, right, can you be at Stansted Airport in 2 days' time, because we're flying you over to Finland, Turku in Finland, where the ship is, because you have been selected with 3 other women. We have yet to make our final selection, and we're flying you over to Turku to see the ship, to be part of the ceremony that is the handover from the shipyard to the company, and bring a ball gown. And I went, oh, really? I could not believe it. I just thought, oh my goodness.
Elizabeth, let me interrupt. At this point, what was your cruising background?
Absolutely none. I'd never. We live in the middle of England, as far away from the sea as you could possibly get. We always had animals. I was married to a farmer. We rarely went away. And, because somebody had to look after the animals. So we didn't, if we went away, it was a couple of days snatched here and there. Wasn't, for any length of time. And cruising was definitely not on my, agenda at all. I was so busy. However, there is a story to this. I got my passport out and it was out of date. I had to make a flying visit to a passport office to get a passport the day before I was due to fly out to Turku. So it was, oh dear, yes. And I didn't have a ball gown. I had to borrow one from someone. It was a bit mad. It was mad. But yes, we sort of went to Stansted and met up with these 3 other lovely women, all equally, all equally had done really good things for the community, and we stayed the night. Then the following morning, we were asked to go across into the VIP lounge, and we walked across the tarmac to a Learjet, which was absolutely wonderful. And we got on the Learjet, and who should be on but Richard Fane and a personal assistant, and.
Now, let me interject for the audience's information. Richard Fane was the CEO of Royal Caribbean, right?
Yes, absolutely. But I mean, I did have time to look at, I did a bit of research on the company before I actually got on the plane. I just think, sometimes you're just in the right place at the right time. And it was my moment, because my husband was very interested in engines, mechanics, all that sort of thing. And so he'd said to me, just don't forget to ask him about, the engines and this, that, and the other. He said, I want to know about them. He said, he's really fascinated about all this. My husband was. So of course, we were all chatting to Richard. And so I asked him, about all this. And it's his baby. He's just absolutely into all these things. And a lot of it just went over my head, I'm afraid, because I'm not into mechanics. But, I learned a lot. And, I found it absolutely fascinating. And how, how it was built, the engines and the capacity, all that sort of thing. Anyway, we got to Turku, and they showed us our wonderful suite, and we went. We were shown round the ship. I guess we were the first people to see it, really, apart from the people working on it, and we had wonderful meals. And then that evening, we went to the ball, which was very very interesting, and it was a real handover from the shipyard to the company. I happened to so we had this very formal meal, and I was sat next to Captain Teo, who had been appointed the new captain of the ship, and we had something in common. We chatted. We had something in common. He'd been brought up in a rural area. He'd got daughters around the same age as my daughter, and we're chatting about that. We found lots of things that were in common. Anyway, we got back to England, and they took us to a hotel where we could get changed and smarten up, because we had to go to the UK headquarters in Surrey for another interview, which was a panel. So there was a Royal Caribbean representative. I think it might have been the director of the British UK side of Royal Caribbean. I can't remember now. Then there was Sir Steve Redgrave, and then there was editor of a cruise magazine, and we were interviewed individually by these people. Now, Sir Steve, it turned out, had a son who hated school, absolutely hated school. So he was asking me all sorts of questions about education, about what he could do with his son, and all those sorts of things. And again, it's just one of those things that falls into your lap, okay, on the rare occasion, and this was mine. Anyway,
so between your inquisitiveness about the engines with Richard Fain, and then your rural upbringing, same as the captain, and now Sir Steve had a child who would probably fit well in your program, your education program.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just think it was, synchronicity, or whatever you like. It all felt right for me. Anyway, they drove us home. We had a chauffeur-driven car back home, and they said they would let us know the next day. So after I arrived home, they told me when I got home that they would ring all the prospective godmothers very early the next day. And at 8 o'clock, I got a phone call from Royal Caribbean, and they said, "Hello, Elizabeth." And I went, hello. And they said, "We'd like to tell you that we've chosen you." And I didn't hear it. It was like, it was really weird. I just didn't hear those words that they'd actually chosen me. And I said, I've had an absolutely fantastic time. I said, it was wonderful. I said, I've just experienced a few days that I would never have dreamt of experiencing in my life. And she said, did you hear what I said? And she went, we've chosen you. And I went, oh, me? And she went, yes, you. And I just didn't know what to say. I was, as you can tell, I talk quite a bit. And I just literally was lost for words. It was a shock, to say the least, because I'd absolutely no idea whatsoever that they had actually chosen me. They didn't give any inkling of it. And as I say, the other three ladies were lovely ladies. So, I had no reason to believe that it would be me. But so they said, right, we've rung you early because at 9 o'clock, the world will know that you are the godmother, and you're going to expect so British TV, British radio, maybe some foreign TV companies may well get in touch with you and want to interview you.
Wow.
And, I know. I mean, that was really mind-blowing, actually, because I've never done that sort of thing before. Why would I have done, And it was suddenly thrown into this media world, which I had never experienced before. And actually, after all the event, they asked me what would, if they had to do it again, what would they do? What did I have any suggestions? And one of them was, yes, some media training, how to speak in front of the camera, how to be, what to say, how to be in front of all the press. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they were right. At 9 o'clock, actually, the BBC arrived, our broadcasting corporation arrived and interviewed me. Then I had a stream of phone calls from various journalists. Then I had a radio person come with a radio. Newspapers. It just was mad. I had never experienced anything like this. This brief celebrity status. It was just totally out of my. It was out of my comfort zone for a start. It was really, really odd.
Now, talk about sharing the news with Alicia.
Oh, right. Yes, well, I told her, and she just said, oh yes, I knew you'd get it, Mum. And I went, how did you know? And so she said, I just did. She said, and I said, why did you do it? And thinking that she was wanting to do something nice for me. She said, I just wanted a holiday, Mum. She was 12. But anyway, it wasn't long before the actual christening, the actual ceremony. And they said, so Royal Caribbean said to me, send your list in. And I went, my list? What do you mean my list? Your guest list. And I said, okay. So I said, oh, I can tell you that now. I said, my hubby and my daughter. And they said, oh, no. You can bring lots more people than that. And I said, well, how many? No, they just said, well, just put them down. We'll tell you when to start. And I went, oh. So my husband had been married before, so we had the extended family. My parents were still alive. Edward's parents were still alive. They came. A friend for Alicia came, my sister came. So yes, lots of, my son came, lots of people. My husband's eldest daughter had just had a baby, and he was not quite 6 months old, and he was the first baby to go on the ship. Mm-hmm. And they were a bit, they said they don't usually let babies at that age go on, but anyway, they let him on. Mm-hmm. So we went down to Southampton the night before and stayed in the Grand, I think, hotel in Southampton. And whilst I was there, I was interviewed by local press there because it was a big thing for Southampton.
Sure.
They were loving it. It brings quite a lot of revenue into the town, of course, into the city. And so early next morning, a chauffeur-driven car came for us. And so that was Edward, myself and Alicia. And we went off and we were escorted on the ship, like, celebrities. We were met at the docking, and we, boarding, and we were just, whisked on through. And we went straight to the so my luggage was taken from me and went straight to the Champagne Lounge where we were waiting, where Richard Fane was there, and one or two other people, and we were waiting for Steve Redgrave because he was going to be part of the ceremony, because basically why he was involved was that he had just retired and he'd set up a sports foundation, and Royal Caribbean had actually was sponsoring it, and but we waited and waited, and he was very late. I think he got really held up in traffic, and because of that, I was supposed to get lots of things like pampering, go to the spa, and we had to do a rehearsal. Well, it literally left us with about an hour before the big ceremony for a quick rehearsal. And I actually got to, because with the Royal Caribbean ships, you don't stand on the dock, on the quayside, and swing the champagne. You actually do it with it's all electronically done, and the button is on top of like a capstan, and you press that. And so I had to practice pressing that, and they filmed it, and actually it was almost like I christened it twice because I had to say the words, and I named the ship the Independence of the Seas and God Bless All Who Sail in Her, and pressed the big button on the capstan. And there was a film, it was filmed from outside, where the big champagne bottle hit the hull and smashed. Anyway, we did that, and they sent me off to get ready. I just had time to have my hair done, and that was it, to be, duly back onto the stage for the actual ceremony, which was absolutely lavish. I mean, I guess you may have been to a naming ceremony, but this was, lots of razzmatazz, lots of singing of sort of hymns, and different denominations saying prayers. And finally, Richard Fane got up to speak, introduced me, and the captain sort of said to me, "Right, it's your turn to speak." And I went, "What?" "What?" Honestly. And I said, "My turn to speak. What am I going to say?" And he said, "Oh, didn't they tell you were supposed to say something?" I said, No. And in all the chaos of everybody being late and the rush, they'd absolutely forgotten to tell me that I needed to have a little speech ready. So anyway, I just sort of, in a daze, and my legs turned to jelly, I stood in front of the microphone, and the only words I can remember is saying thank you to lots of people, and saying, it's like the Oscars, this, isn't it? Anyway, apparently I did say some reasonable stuff because people came up to me afterwards and congratulated me. But the best of it was, it happened to be my daughter's 13th birthday, and Richard Fain invited her on the stage and gave her a present. Everyone sang happy birthday to her. So and I also got a gift of a lovely diamond brooch, which is very much treasured. And after that, we went up into one of the private lounges. I'm not sure they're there now, and we had a celebration. Celebratory, just the main people had a celebratory drink and cocktails and things, where my family all went back, because we had we had the presidential suite, and the family were all scattered nearby, and the presidential suite it's not, I don't think that's there anymore, but it had a hot tub on the balcony, and apparently they had this wonderful party in the presidential suite, and as one bottle of champagne was drunk, another one was replaced. There were sort of staff coming in with all little nibbles and goodies and lots of champagne for them. But I was busy talking to lots of... So everywhere I went on board ship, I got a microphone stuffed in my face and a camera, a movie camera following me everywhere. So I was working. It was quite hard. It was quite hard work. Which, obviously, I'm from... They didn't actually say I was an ambassador from that moment on. I just took upon the role that I thought, well, it's quid pro quo that, I've had the privilege of being, the godmother. Then I need to, be proactive as as an ambassador and do my best for the company, which every time I've been on a cruise, I have, I've shared my tables deliberately at meal times, and spoken to people. I've handed out prizes and things at various entertainment activities that they have on board. So I've tried to play my part. But we had, it was just fabulous 2 days, and the ship just went out round the Isle of Wight and came back again, and I found myself signing autographs for people who we would class as famous, and I couldn't believe this. But I did find out later that I was told by somebody. They said, well, because it's maiden voyage, well, it's not. It wasn't actually classed as its maiden voyage, but they said that your autograph, along with other memorabilia of the naming ceremony, might be worth a bob or two at the, a bit of money by then. So that's probably why they wanted my signature.
So that sounds wonderful. What was that first cruise like? I mean, you had never cruised, or any anxiety about seasickness or anything?
No, not at all. No, not at all. And the lovely part about this was because even at breakfast the next morning, when everyone was going to disembark, I was being stopped all the time and spoken to, and people wanting pictures with me and things. And they came to me and said, would you and your husband and daughter like to stay on to do what they called the maiden voyage, which was to Cork in Ireland and back? And, we said, oh, that would be absolutely wonderful. We had to move out of the presidential suite because someone had obviously bought that, because it was quite an important sort of bit. But they still gave us a very nice suite. And we had a wonderful voyage to cook. And I mean, the Irish Sea has a reputation for being pretty rough. But no, we never suffered seasickness or anything. We just took to it like a duck to water. So it was really lovely. We managed then on the maiden voyage to actually, well, I did, to actually enjoy the cruise because, well, not that I didn't enjoy the naming ceremony. I did. It was wonderful, but it was full on and it wasn't relaxing, whereas the maiden voyage was relaxing and lovely. So so that sort of, it did give me the taste for cruising. It was lovely.
So besides Richard Fane and Sir Steve, and of course Godmother Elizabeth, were there any celebrities there?
So I'm not a, what do they call them, fangirl? I'm not, don't follow celebrities very much, but there were some top British footballers there, and television presenters, and one or two actors, and that people told me with who they were afterwards, but I can't name them because it it was absolutely all a blur. Just it all merged all into one. It was so overwhelming, I think is the word, because it was just totally out of something that I wouldn't, never experienced, never expected to experience in all my life. So it was just, it was almost like a dream. I was in a, but so yeah, it was. I don't know. I was told that when I had my hair done that I was no, what can I say? I better be careful. That the previous godmother that they did the hair for didn't want anybody else in the hair salon. They had to shut the hair salon down. At least they didn't for me. So that was good.
So after the christening and maiden voyage, did you have any obligations, and were there any ongoing benefits to being named godmother?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I didn't have any obligations, but part of that was that I won 10 cruises, 10 free cruises for my husband and my family. We've never taken them because we were full on busy at the time, but we've taken more since we retired. But in the early days, I was invited down to Southampton quite a bit for various activities. They were doing lots of promotional stuff. So we went down for mother and daughter days and, other. I went down when there was a big conference held on board of other cruise companies, and I sat next to the CEO of a Greek shipping company, and the other side of me was an Italian CEO of an Italian, So yeah, I've mixed in good company. But that was the early days, and the hotel director, her name was Julie, was absolutely wonderful, and she would make sure that I was invited to things, and she always remembered my birthday, and then she always sent a bouquet of flowers on the naming day. But then when she moved on to another ship, and of course the next hotel director didn't know me, so I didn't get that sort of treatment after. But nonetheless, I thoroughly enjoyed it. But we've had some wonderful cruises.
How has being named godmother of Independence of the Seas influenced your life, particularly your charity?
I can't say that. So at first, I didn't know what to do with it. And again, this is something maybe that I suggested to them that that sort of status could be used to promote something that I was doing, and I didn't know how to do it. Of course, things have moved on, and had we had things like sort of Insta and TikTok and things like that, then I probably would have been able to do it. And if my daughter would have had been older and a bit more tech savvy, then probably I would. But I know now that the full potential of me being godmother was never. I didn't use it to the full advantage. What I did do is put myself on a speakers circuit locally to women's clubs and various clubs around who have speakers, and it gave me the opportunity to talk about my charity, also to promote the ship. And as the years went by, I got more and more people saying, "Oh, I've been on your ship. Oh, I saw your photograph," and that sort of thing. So, I think had it been 10 years, sort of later, it may well have been a lot different. But whatever, it was fine. It's. I think I did use it to but not to its full advantage, I think.
Now, when they say they saw your photograph, you're talking about. I think you had a portrait
I
on.
did.
It's permanent, right? On Independence of the Seas?
It is. It's there. It's on the what is the champagne, near the champagne bar. And as my, in fact, I think I sent you a picture of a copy of the picture of it, and it's in a big gold frame, and it has a plaque underneath it saying who I am and why I'm there. So yes, apparently it'll always be there. And a little story about that, actually. I was on the last cruise that I went, which was in 2019, and I met one of the crew, the actual crew, not the who were on the bridge, who were on the bridge, and he said, Elizabeth Godmother. And I said, oh, yes, hello. I think he came from the Philippines. Anyway, that he said to me, oh, I'm so pleased I've seen you this morning. I've seen you in person. He said, every morning, he said, since I've been on this ship, he said, I go past your portrait. And he said, I say, good morning, godmother, look after us, please. He said, oh, I pray you look after us, please, he said. And he said that every morning.
Well, that's the tradition of godmothers, as you know, to look after the ship and the crew.
Yeah.
That photo that you were referencing, you did send it to me. I had it was included in the Joy of Cruising. And in 2019, they had relocated, I guess, seasonally, they relocated Independence to Florida.
Yes.
And I was living in Florida, and I booked Independence to go on with my grandkids.
Oh, right.
I love to cruise with my grandkids. And the whole plan was to take a photo of my grandkids in front of your portrait.
Oh.
And then COVID came, the lockdown came. And that cruise, got canceled.
Oh, yeah. I think it's still there. I hope it is. I don't think I'm. Who knows? I was very disappointed when it went. I've not been on another ship. I feel disloyal going on another ship. They said I could. They said I could go across I could go to Celebrity. I could, go take my cruises on anywhere. But I want to be on Independence because, it feels it feels like my ship, and I feel at home.
Right.
And when I'm on board, it's I am treated so royally. I can't tell you. It is absolutely wonderful, and I don't take advantage. Other people take advantage, which is rather funny. Maybe I've met someone at maybe at a dinner one evening, and then I'm round the pool, and they want an extra towel, and they've been talking to me, and they say, when they're not allowed an extra towel, and they say, "Oh, we're with the godmother," and then they get an extra towel.
So are you still in touch at all with Royal Caribbean?
Unfortunately, no. I think the COVID put paid to lots of things, didn't it? Really, and so I've sort of I've lost touch with them. They're not. I'm not sure what happened to the British office. I don't know whether it's still in existence or whether it's not as not as active. I'm not really sure at all. So no. Unfortunately, I seem to have lost touch with them. I think if I wanted to book another cruise, there would be back looking, sort of looking after me. But of course, I'm old news now, aren't I? Because what was once the biggest ship in Europe has now paled into insignificance with all these super ships that have come along since then. I mean,
Well, I wouldn't call yourself old news. I mean, you will always be the godmother.
I will, and she's a wonderful ship.
And I remember following you. Shortly after I wrote Joy of Cruising.
Oh yes,
you had your handle on social media was the Cruising Godmother. Are you
it
still?
is. Yes,
Are you
it
still
is.
on
Yes,
social media? And can
yes. Well,
fans
I've
follow
got.
you?
Yes, I'm so I which I really must start again.
That's right.
cruiselikeagodmother.co.uk.
That's right. That's
So
right.
it's
Cruise like a
it's
godmother.
cruiselikeagodmother.co.uk. No, not .co. Yeah, yes, cruiselikeagodmother.co.uk. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my handle. Yes. So yeah, there's lots of things on there that are that we haven't got, that are more detailed than we've had time for today. But yes, it's it's a once in a lifetime. Absolutely, I likened it once to winning the lottery, and actually, I got something that money couldn't buy. So because what I failed to tell you when I was on board the ship on the naming ceremony was that I absolutely went everywhere, and I mean everywhere on that ship.
Mm-hmm.
And because my husband, and I mean, this is unprecedented, because my husband was interested in the engines, they arranged for him and a couple of the other men who were with me, who also were interested, to go down to the engine room. That is unprecedented. Nobody goes down to the engine rooms except the people who are authorised to do so. It is just, it is top. You don't go there.
Mm-hmm.
I did go down and met the engineers. And I've been on the bridge so many times.
Mm-hmm.
We've sailed out of various ports, on the bridge. Um, I always have a dinner or a meal, either in the main dining room or in a private dining room. One of the special dining areas with the captain every time I'm on board.
Mm-hmm.
The captain always sends me a bottle of something, and maybe some chocolates or something to welcome me on board, flowers for me. And actually speaks to me to welcome me on board and he publicly announces that
Mm-hmm.
I am on board ship. So yeah, it's, as I say, it is very much, I'm very much treated like royalty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, Elizabeth, any future travel planned or anything on your travel bucket list?
No, I'm unfortunately, um, my husband's quite poorly. He has Parkinson's disease, which is one of the reasons why we're moving. We're having to move
Uh,
to a bungalow, and yeah, he's.
sorry to hear that.
I know. We take each day as it comes, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure whether at the moment we're, especially with, the move is stressful, but we have to move because he can't, because it's not good for him to stay here. So we
Mm-hmm.
have to move, but maybe when he's feeling better after the move, we may be able to do that. But I need something I have missed off this. Alicia, of course, has always been part of this, and she is an opera singer. She's been to a prestigious music college in London, the Royal College of Music, and she's and done her masters there. And she's an opera singer, and not the last cruise, because that was Captain Tao, but the cruise before, with Captain Eve, he invited her. Well, he always wanted to sing anyway, so whenever we have a meal, he makes her sing. He tells her she's singing for her supper, so he makes her stand up before we eat our meal and makes her sing. And well, no, he invites her to sing, he doesn't make her sing. And then the last cruise we went to, which was Norway, the fjords, he had some, I don't know who they were, some VIP guests on board. And he specifically asked her if she would go and sing on the bridge. He was inviting them to some cocktails on the bridge, and would she sing on the bridge? And I think that was sort of quite historical, that that someone sang opera on the bridge. So,
Yeah, I remember when I interviewed you 5 years ago for The Joy of Cruising. She was in music school.
yes, she was. Yes,
Hmm.
yes. She has also. So he might be Jim, who used to be the musical director. Have you ever spoken to him? Jim, who used to be the musical director of Royal Caribbean. He used to be the pianist for Johnny Mathis,
Oh,
and
okay.
he played for her when she was 16, and she sang on the public, the glass bridge that lowers and comes down over the
Mm-hmm.
main, in the ship, and
Mm-hmm.
she sang on there when she was 16, and he played for her then. So he's quite an interesting guy. So he might be.
Well, no, I've never met him, but I'd be glad
Yeah,
to talk to him. If you can, put us in touch with each
I
other.
will. I'll definitely, because I'm still in touch with him. So yeah, it's
Yeah, yeah. Well, put in
I
a word
will.
for
I
me.
will.
Well, look, finally, Elizabeth, before we let you go, going to put you to work.
Okay.
Please announce this week's winner of a copy of The Joy of Cruising or Cruising Interrupted.
So the joy of cruising, or cruising interrupted, this week is Linda Miller. Hooray! Yes.
Very
Well
good.
done, Linda.
Linda is a member of the Joy of Cruising podcast Facebook group, so I will get in touch with her. Elizabeth, thank you for coming on the Joy of Cruising podcast and sharing your fairy tale story. That's what I call it.
Well, it is.
And continued all the best to you, and especially the move. I know how stressful
Thank
that can
you.
be, and all the best to your husband. I've enjoyed talking
Thank
to
you.
you, and I
Likewise.
thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Joy of Cruising and Cruising Interrupted can be ordered at the link on the joyofcruisingpodcast.com. each for $16.99 plus shipping. Order these soon to be released, The Joy of Cruising Again, also at thejoyofcruisingpodcast.com for $18.99. For each of the 3 books, use the discount code Joy of Cruising Podcast and get $4 off. Again, the discount code Joy of Cruising Podcast. Enter to win a copy of The Joy of Cruising or Cruising Interrupted while supplies last at thejoyofcruisingpodcast.com by joining the Joy of Cruising Podcast Facebook group or both to increase your chance to win. A winner will be announced on each show. Please leave us a review and tell a friend about us. Thank you. We hope you enjoyed the brief escape to the ocean. See you next week. Exciting news, passionate cruisers. The Joy of Cruising Again book was just released. Order the ebook at your favorite online retailer. The paperback can be ordered by copying the web address listed at the podcast website, www.thejoyofcruisingpodcast.com. Don't forget to use the coupon code Joy of Cruising Podcast to get $4 off. We think you'll enjoy the new book as much as Paul enjoyed writing it, and we would love to hear your comments at the Joy of Cruising Again Facebook page or at the Joy of Cruising Instagram page. Thank you.